2021 proved to be another year in which we dealt with the life-altering impact of COVID-19, and now we are faced with a major European war. There seems to be so many distractions competing for our minds, which has caused many to turn to ways of numbing their minds in efforts to escape the never-ending uncertainty. As a nation, we see the increased use of drugs, the rapid decline in mental health, and a high rate of suicide among the youth. Even though the national suicide rate in the U.S. declined in 2020, according to preliminary data from the CDC, there were increases among young adults. Many are struggling to find calm, but it is sad that many of our youth see no hope of a bright future and decide the best solution is to end their precious lives. The example being set by adults is one of constant complaining, bickering, and fighting. We can and must do a better job of giving our youth a vision of hope for their future while helping them see their potential and instructing and helping them achieve their goals. For many years, we have seen our youth graduate and leave our community. We have also watched a steady population decline for many years, and that must change. Continual population decline makes providing services difficult, and if this continues, it will be eventually impossible. The solution is growth, and this can be accomplished by placemaking. Placemaking, quality of life, and livability all have the same meaning, which is utilizing public spaces, creating gathering places that invites greater interaction between people and foster healthier, more social, economically viable communities. My plan to retain our youth after graduation, attract others to live here, and spur economic growth here is by investing in placemaking. We have spent 2 years engaging with local and regional groups to identify our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats so we can overcome our weaknesses and build a city as a placemaking home. 2022 will be the year you will see the results of those efforts, as well as new projects being identified where investments will be made in creating livability. The first investment is to fix what is broken. For a long time, we have watched our great assets decline because proper maintenance has not been done due to the lack of funding and leadership not developing or implementing a maintenance program. So how can we invest in ourselves if we don't have the funds to do so? What I have learned over the past 2 years is that the funding mechanism for local governments is a very complex system that very few understand, and opportunities are missed out on due to that complexity. There are individuals who specialize in this, and some larger cities have a full-time person or controller to work solely on this. Adam Stone was a controller for several years and helped build software for government entities and now owns his own company, Stone Municipal. He provides the expertise of this position as a consultant without the city having to hire another full-time staff person. He is diving into all of our finances now, making sure we are able to maximize our funds so we can invest in ourselves and provide a plan and roadmap for the future. This will bring change. There are those who hate change and fight ideas of even looking at something different, while others thrive in it. I am one who does not settle for the norm and constantly evaluate myself for change and improvement. Even though stagnant water appears to be the same day after day, it is changing, just in the wrong direction, creating undesirable consequences. We as a city have been stagnant, going in the wrong direction for many years, and now left with many undesirable consequences that will take years, and for some, generations, to change. An example of an undesirable consequence that can be changed easily is our health outcome ranking and health factor ranking. Out of 92 counties, our health outcome ranking is 90 and our health factor rating is 91. Even though we have improved, those numbers are still not good at all. The county health rankings are based on a model of community health that emphasizes the many factors that influence how long and how well we live. The rankings use more than 30 measures that help communities understand how healthy their residents are today, health outcomes, and what will impact their health in the future, health factors. An example of an undesirable consequence that is generational is from our peak in 1980 to the most recent data in 2020, we have lost over 17% of our population. Since 1990, we have lost 12%, which is over 3,000 people. This did not happen overnight, and changing this will also take time, if not generations. These are just two examples of many, but ones that we can improve on with change. The process of change began during my first 2 years by evaluating and fine-tuning a focused management strategy, which is still ongoing and will be one that never stops. Some departments have never had a formal management review or structure put in place, which also produced an undesirable consequence. There are still problems to be solved, and we continually look at the process to see how we can improve. Some of the changes needed require a mindset change that only time will fix. The process does not always mean reducing or eliminating positions, but rather identifying the issues and the needs, providing solutions to them. There are some instances in which more people are needed so we can run more efficiently. A perfect example of this is the city engineer position. No, we don't have one and have not for more than 12 years, although many of our ordinances and building codes for existing and new construction are supposed to be addressed by this position. The city engineer and the code enforcer would work together identifying, dealing with dilapidated building code violations so we can make our community safe and clean. Currently, the number of new developments in progress, we must hire an engineering firm familiar with our construction standards to make sure the development meets our standards. This could be done by a city engineer as well if we had one. This person would also rate the street conditions for the PACER program for our paving, guiding the street painting to make sure we follow the standards, permit and inspect street cuts, curb cuts, sidewalk cuts, update and implement the ADA standards, inspect ADA projects, coordinate ADA mandatory ADA training, complete yearly ADA reporting, maintain GIS systems, design, monitor, inspect utility projects, and drainage reviews. This is just a partial list of what we can accomplish by reestablishing the position of a city engineer. An emphasis on training for safety and job performance has been an integral part of improving each department. Criticism is quick and easy to throw out on social media. We begin by asking the question, has proper training been done when we see an area of performance that is lacking? Once that has been determined, the necessary training can be implemented. An example of this is in snow removal. The street department held a training session from a group that specializes in this. Formal training on how to plow snow safely and effectively has never been done with the current employees. The classroom setting is only one part. The experience starts when the snow comes. Are we perfect? No. Are there areas to improve? Yes. Has the department made improvements? Absolutely. This last ice and snow event, I personally watched them focus on the task and work tirelessly with a drive to make our streets safe. Performance can be improved with proper training. We have also focused on the equipment needs of the street department. Since most of it is very old and worn out, prioritizing is difficult. We purchased 2 used dump trucks with plows that are in very good condition, 2 used pickup trucks, a UTV with a snow plow, a hot box for asphalt repair. The city has around 74 miles of roads, which is an estimated cost of $35 to $40 million to pave. Since the community crossing grant starting in 2016, the city has averaged around $600,000 a year in paving, which would put us on a 60 to 75 year cycle. The problem is exacerbated by the already dilapidated road conditions and poor ratings of many of the streets due to not having a maintenance program developed. We have researched, talked with other communities, and spoken with specialists to develop our own asphalt maintenance program that will begin this year. The purchase of the hot box and asphalt tools was a major step in this process because without the right tools, the job cannot be properly completed. Crack sealing, mastic, and rejuvenator are now part of the long-term maintenance plan. Potholes will no longer just be filled, which is a short-term Band-Aid, but rather will be properly fixed for a long-term solution. Trash and recycling have needed review from day one. The trash trucks we had were constantly breaking down due to the lack of maintenance over time. This made everyday trash pickup difficult as breakdowns forced pickup day changes. Since the trash rates had not been evaluated over 10 years, purchasing new equipment was not feasible. Now we are faced with equipment that is old and breaks down constantly. Stone Municipal was tasked with doing a trash rate analysis so we could see the true impact of income and expenses. The goal is not to make money, but to have a solvent service that is able to continue to provide services while planning for future needs like equipment, facilities repair, upgrades, and the rising cost of disposal. This study exposed that the trash is operating in the red and using funds from the DOT budget to make up the difference. We also knew that the cost of hauling and disposing of the trash was going to increase, and we wanted to be ahead of it so we can provide cost-effective and efficient services in the future. Setting the rates to a proper level will allow the trash to operate more efficiently, the transfer station and compost drop-off to continue to operate, and for the street department to be able to utilize their funding for much-needed equipment. The fire department was using software that was outdated and very limited on its capabilities with compliance needs, and it had come to a point where it would not be serviceable for very long. Chief Jones researched and found a software that meets most of those needs, especially with inspections. State statute requires inspections on a business to be completed by the fire department for the health and safety of our community. When the assistant chief's position was removed, inspections were pretty much non-existent, and employee training suffered greatly. Reinstating the assistant chief position allowed for completed inspections and increased training, so when emergency services are required, highly trained professionals are taking care of the crisis and are aware of yours and their own safety. Another area of focus for the fire department is our Insurance Services Office Rating, or ISO. The ISO scores fire departments on how they are doing against its organization's standards to determine property insurance cost, which affects your insurance premiums and businesses alike. When businesses look for a place to locate, the ISO is a determining factor of whether some businesses can even look at a community. Our goal is to constantly find ways to improve our rating in order to make the community safer, more attractive, and a cost-effective place to be for businesses to locate. The police department removed a total of 68 grams of fentanyl off the streets, which does not sound like much, but it only takes a small amount to kill someone. According to the DEA, 1 gram of fentanyl can kill around 300 to 500 people, which would be 20,000 to 34,000 people for the 68 grams. That is significant and could have been detrimental to our community. We have also focused on a vehicle replacement program since a formal plan has never been in place. Past practices were doing the best they could and mostly purchased used equipment since there was not enough funding to purchase new. Normally, 2 vehicles were purchased at a time, which puts the department on a 15-year cycle with used equipment. We are working to develop a vehicle replacement program so our police department can operate efficiently and effectively. Body cameras for the officers were purchased with a grant and will go online this year after waiting on the cameras for several months due to supply chain issues and now trainer availability from the company. Policing across the country has been negatively impacted by mayors who are soft on crime, choosing not to arrest criminals. I have not and will not take that approach, so our businesses can operate and residents feel safe knowing that criminals are not welcome here and will be dealt with appropriately. Ordinance enforcement is crucial for the health and safety of the community and is a vital piece of placemaking. For many years, this area has lacked attention, which has caused an undesirable consequence in our community. The position was part-time with no formal process in place and assisting within the department instead of working ordinances. When attempting to attract a business to the community, the first thing they do is drive around and see how the community takes care of their properties. From what they have told me, this tells them what kind of workforce we have and whether or not they are willing to invest here. As I mentioned in the beginning, we must grow, and cleaning up our community is something we can control. In August of last year, we were able to install a full-time ordinance enforcer who tagged 275 properties and 204 vehicles. We knew going into this, the main issue we faced was a long history of ordinances not being enforced. So our approach was not to fine everyone immediately, but to help them understand the issue and how they need to rectify it. The long-term goal is for there to be a three-pronged approach with the ordinance enforcer, fire chief, and city engineer to clean up our city and to keep it that way. Please do your part by taking pride in your property, cleaning it up, and maintaining it. Creating a community that takes pride begins by taking pride in your property, ensuring it will last for generations to come. EMS had a record-breaking year, answering 4,419 calls, which is not necessarily a good thing, but does establish the need for their services and the need to make sure we are able to provide this service in the future. Last year was a particularly challenging year, not just for our department, but across the entire country with increased call volumes and staffing issues. The number of paramedics needed for Indiana alone has made it extremely difficult to staff our ambulances, which causes multiple other issues within the department that must be dealt with. It takes 2 years of schooling to become a paramedic, and very few places offer that program. The billing rates were also an area that were evaluated and updated, making sure the income stream is protected. Once again, a vehicle replacement program is being established, outlining replacement plans and payment strategies. Fortunately, the EMS has a non-reverting fund established that puts money aside for repairs and vehicle purchases, but there is not a formal plan in place outlining timelines and funding for replacement. We have a wonderful park system with many opportunities for people of all ages to enjoy from the north side to the south side of the city. The Parks Department has done a phenomenal job raising funds, $457,000, to repair dilapidated facilities and to build new projects promoting and creating placemaking. 2nd Street Park will be under construction shortly, converting an old playground into a wonderful new park for all to enjoy. Thank you to the individuals and organizations who donated the money, making this project a reality. The Long Red Bridge has been in a state of decline for many years and is now on schedule to be repaired, in part due to a generous donor who funded more than half of the cost. This piece of wonderful history sits in front of our great Roberts Park and will be restored and preserved to its former glory. The baseball complex has been a project we have been working on from day one. We have some issues with the work that was previously completed by not meeting all the requirements, making us ineligible to apply for more grants from the DNR. Fixing it will be expensive, and we still don't have any baseball fields. The first step was to determine what kind of facility we really need, so a study paid for by the Lions Club was done to see what our community and surrounding areas would support. This study has been completed and a preliminary design was created, which includes fixing all the issues so we could see what the cost would be, which is well over $4 million. We have a lot of work to do, and they are currently working with Stone Municipal on ways to accomplish the goal of moving our current fields out of the floodplain. The Connersville utilities produced another good year of completing projects alleviating problematic areas. The first was the completion of the Memorial Drive and 7th Street stormwater project that eliminated long-time overflow issues of the sewers to the river at Water Street. The total cost of the project was $3 million. The water main and services on 30th Street, Eby Drive, and 10th Street Hill area were all replaced due to the many numbers of leaks it had over the years. Total cost was $1.5 million. During the downtown sidewalk replacement, the service lines were replaced from the water main to each building since they were 100 years old. The total cost was $200,000. The wastewater treatment plant had a $5 million aerobic digester project, and for the first time, a backup generator was installed to allow pumps and other equipment to keep running during power outages. As part of the $30 million long-term control plan agreed order with the state of Indiana in 2003, the $20 million headworks facility at the plant was designed and ready for bid and starts construction this year. The long-term control plan must be finished by 2030. The solar project started in 2019, went online after working out some issues with Duke Energy that could have been detrimental to the project if not dealt with properly. TV3 is a tremendous asset to our community and has been undervalued by some for many years. As I meet other leaders around the state, I do not find many that have a service like we do. The ability to live broadcast to all the public meetings and high school sports is something most other communities can only imagine, and we have it. New shows are constantly being added, but the highlight was a new bi-weekly news show highlighting local news and events. This took quite the effort to build, but once again, TV3's expert staff did an outstanding job with it. One major problem we have identified is a funding mechanism, which are cable franchise fees. As technology advances, streaming services are becoming more dominant, which has had a negative impact on funding. To protect this service, we are working on strategies to ensure we have a long future with TV3. Grants have been a crucial piece of the puzzle that is time-consuming, beneficial, and frustrating all at the same time, since we are always having to compete and wait, hoping projects will be able to come to fruition. I spend a large amount of time reading through the many grants to see what could be available to us, then sitting down with our grant writer to see if there is a fit with all the qualifications. We focus on applying for grants that we can use wisely on placemaking projects and equipment needs for the city departments. We received a grant to build a marketing program for our rural opportunity zone on the north end of the city. The Opportunity Zone was a Trump initiative incentivizing developers to invest in underserved areas that typically do not see investments with savings in capital gains. Because of this, we now have one development taking place in the Opportunity Zone, with others being worked on. We were awarded $250,000 to help businesses impacted by COVID-19 and to supply high-speed Wi-Fi internet at Roberts Park and in the city lot by the courthouse so kids that do not have internet could complete their schoolwork when they were not able to be at school. This also provides long-term fast Wi-Fi to those areas for events held where vendors who utilize credit card processing can do so with extremely fast speeds. We received $60,000 from Okra to develop our comprehensive plan, which will be a roadmap to shape and guide the future of our city, along with an implementation plan so it's not just another book sitting on the shelf collecting dust. For many years, groups have met to come up with ideas and projects to improve our community. Great ideas came from those meetings, but when it came time to put a plan in place to implement these projects, nothing happened. The last comprehensive plan was in 2011, which is now outdated and didn't establish a plan for implementation. Earlier last year, we engaged a consultant to help the city apply for a grant to help fund a comprehensive plan, which we were awarded. Meetings with the community and designers are already underway, and community input meetings are coming shortly. These meetings will be open to everyone, but we have a strong focus on the youth partaking in these meetings. If our desire is to keep our youth here after graduation, then we need to design our city for what they want it to be like. This plan will not only be a roadmap for what we want the community to look like, but will also include timelines and markers to complete projects. We received a $250,000 housing rehabilitation grant to help 12 to 15 homeowners rehabilitate or install ADA items in their home, with most, if not all, of these projects starting this year. There was a $77,000 grant awarded for bulletproof vest, a defibrillator for Parks Department, and EMS equipment. The Community Crossing Grant, which is a 50-50 match for paving, was awarded at $593,000, allowing us to utilize around $1.1 million for paving. Lastly, we were awarded the HELP Grant, which will give us a $1 million match when we are done. This was an initiative by Okra to help communities develop plans and strategies to help with the ARPA funds each community received. We had to commit $1 million of these funds to receive the extra $1 million, but now we will have $2 million to designate to placemaking projects. This grant also provides half of the funds for a community coordinator position who will focus on nothing else but this project for 1 year. Another group that was formed is the Workforce Development Committee, which was identified and created from the 21st Century Talent Region meetings. This group meets monthly to identify and implement projects that focus on placemaking. From the beginning, this group knew my expectation was not just to see ideas presented, but to put actions to those ideas. When I first came into office, most groups and boards did not know what their responsibilities were and didn't have any plan for where they wanted to go. The Redevelopment Commission was one of those groups. Their mission is to address the conditions associated with areas in need of redevelopment and the underutilization of land or barriers to development. This is one tool we have been given to make investments in our community for growth, but one that was never utilized. There were two problems the Commission faced when I first took office. The first was an understanding of what the role and vision of the Commission, which is the very first question I asked the board. I set the expectation that every board and commission will be effective and efficient in their role in the city and set the direction for where we needed to go. The second problem is funding. My first year, the bank account had less than $40,000 in it, which is not much to redevelop with. After selling land, we held vacant for many years and successfully holding the owners of the former Wazada building accountable to their failed agreements. The Redevelopment Commission now sits on over $1.6 million. My concern going forward is when the money is used for redevelopment projects, how do we replenish it to continue doing more projects? Effective redevelopment commissions are funded by what is called TIF, Tax Increment Financing Districts. The state keeps restricting communities on how we can generate revenue for ourselves, and for now, this is one of the remaining tools we have for the commission to generate money. We are currently engaged in the process of creating TIF allocation area with Taft and Baker Tilly, which we hope to have in place this year. The commission is also working on 2 placemaking projects downtown. One of those projects, called Market Street Plaza, is in the final concept design stage and will be announced very soon. This project is being designed specifically around placemaking, bringing people and business opportunities to the downtown. The Redevelopment Commission is developing another model to replenish funds and to spur redevelopment in housing areas with a program called One House, One Neighborhood at a Time. There are some areas where investors do not invest in since the surrounding comparable values are too low for them to make a profit. We want to start the process by fixing up a dilapidated property in an area to start increasing the comparable values. Once this happens, investors will be more willing to start investing in other properties in the neighborhood. Our goal is not to be in competition with investors, but to help spur their desire to invest in areas of the city that needs revitalization. The Redevelopment Commission spearheaded the role in the sidewalk to Walmart problem. The cost of installing the sidewalk was projected to be over $4 million, and it would still be next to the highway. When the developer of the property wanted to purchase a parcel on 37th Street, he couldn't come to an agreement on a price and was $10,000 short. I approached the developer and said we would give the $10,000, allowing them to purchase the ground if they would install a 6-foot asphalt walking trail from 37th Street to Walmart. This gets the walkway off the highway, making it a safer way to access the shopping center. This project has been approved by the APC, and the developer is currently designing an assisted living facility for this location. The Redevelopment Commission now has a clear focus on placemaking projects to change the direction of the population decline. This year, there are more projects that will be announced that are focused on doing just that. On May 14th, we will host a party in the Ville once again. This event was a huge success last year, and we want to continue this event as well as build more opportunities downtown. The two projects the Redevelopment Commission is working on will create space not just for events, but opportunity for entrepreneurs to realize their dreams. The plan is to create events that bring people downtown, creating a customer base for other businesses. Instead of looking at empty, dilapidated buildings, we are making investments to create opportunities for placemaking. Be watching for announcements to be coming very soon, as we are in the final stages of both projects. On August 18th, we will be hosting the first ever farm-to-table dinner downtown, right in the middle of Central Avenue in front of the Whitewater Valley Arts Association. This dining experience will feature local food produced right here in Fayette County, prepared by our great local culinary experts. This is not a fundraising event, but rather an opportunity to come experience fabulous food while enjoying being with others from a community in a wonderful setting. Seating will be very limited, so be watching for more details to come. Even with the pandemic running its course, we stayed focused with our vision to create positive change. We never stopped, even when everything around us was shutting down and everyday life was changing. There is one thing for sure: we cannot continue down the path of changing in the wrong direction by remaining stagnant. There are entrepreneurs currently making investments in our community because our city has focused on making changes in the right direction. Phoenix investors purchased the former Vistion building and is currently making significant improvements to make it white box ready for tenants. On the south side across from the soccer complex, Pavies is building a much needed grocery store and gas station. There are 4 new chain businesses in design and beginning construction phase, and 1 major restaurant teardown and reconstruction getting ready to start. We have had more new home construction permits issued than we have seen in a very long time. There is also an assisted living facility finishing up design phase, which will be built in the newly approved development on the north end. Positive change is starting to happen, but we cannot let up. It will take a continual community-wide effort of making personal choices for positive change to show everyone that this is a place to invest, work, and live. Attraction of businesses and people are greatly hindered when they come to visit and see complacent attitudes of no hope or desire to improve by what they see. We can no longer accept the continual decline of property and people, because the result would be that of stagnant water. We have a great sense of community pride to help one another. Now, let's focus that pride on helping ourselves become better. A better place to live, a better place to work, a better place to invest, and a better place to visit. My personal goal is when people who live in the surrounding communities are looking for something to do, they choose Connersville because we have provided better placemaking opportunities. This will require participation from everyone, but together, we as a community can change the current undesirable consequences to desirable opportunities, building a bright and successful future for generations to come.